Alright, it's about time I get this video over and done with. I've been wanting to do it for some time, but finally I have now made some time for it. And although I have recorded this video already, I didn't like it too much by any means for a different array of factors, but as the title should say, something along the lines of any one of these three should have left me far off worse than I am now with all three. So, the very first one, we'll get right into it. Very first one being 3 total traumatic brain bleeds. So TBIs. This is the most ever recorded amount of brain bleeds with full functional recovery, both cognitive and functional recovery. Now, although of course there have been, like I just said, there has been recorded cases of this matter of fact, but I'll get more into that. But so 3 is the maximum ever recorded. I have 3. Damage to the midbrain specifically. The brain damage in and of itself should generally leave one with paralysis or with some form of it. And how much more so, especially when an individual has damage to the midbrain specifically, because the midbrain controls things such as vision and or motor control. So everything you do as a human, it's basically the midbrain. Think of it as a highway where every signal is sent through, and this midbrain injury is the one way, is the one way I am affected to this day, despite significant brain damage and an astronomical injury severity. And that is because of, like I said, that motor control, and the right side of the brain controls the left and vice versa. So because I damaged the right side of the brain, my left foot big toe was affected. Flickers up and down randomly, and I'm sure I've said this in a different video, but here it is again, that there's no pain, there's no discomfort, but it's just simply an annoyance. And so again, an individual with a midbrain lesion or a bleed, there has been some documented cases where there has been, again, a full cognitive and functional recovery. And now the last one, number 3, PTA, 40 days into PTA. So what PTA is post-traumatic amnesia. And so essentially what that is the brain's way of protecting itself, and it only putting emphasis on survival factors and not putting on any importance to logging memories and just remembering really anything. And so again, it's kind of like, think of it as the brain being in the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight. And so absolutely that's essentially kind of the brain's kind of like kind of survival mode in a sense. And so clinically speaking, PTA 28 days and beyond is then considered into the worst category of them all, and that would be the extremely severe category of that injury profile. And PTA is, in the hospital setting, is one of the most, generally speaking, one of the most reliable factors in one's recovery and their outcome on how they will end up, after the matter of fact, obviously, and of course within time. So I got 3 bleeds, damaged midbrain, prolonged PTA. Excuse me. I still have to absolutely verify, in a sense, the exact amount of days, which I'm sure I'll come out with another video with that, but I remember in my own personal experience, of course, I vividly remember the very first date I saw at the last hospital in downtown Chicago. And I always had felt it was about 40 days, give or take, but then off some just spontaneous arising naturally meditation, and kind of think of it as like an insight, revelation, or an epiphany. And I vividly remember recalling November 11th on the whiteboard at the very last hospital. And so then I immediately did the research into, or not the research, the calculation, I should say, into what amount of days is October 3rd to November 11th, and that is 40 days. Which, in fact, puts me well into the extremely severe category. And I, by all means, absolutely had the brain injury severity in order to validate that number. But of course, and what I plan to do very soon here is not only get my case documented, but also to know exactly what the hospital said was my days in post-traumatic amnesia. And so I just did some research into it before making this video, because I didn't want to be foolish with making this video and whatnot. But now, again, with 3 traumatic brain injuries, or multi-bleeds, 2 or 3, damage to the midbrain, and extremely severe PTA. Now, there is some literature where there has been an individual with 2 of these 3. There is some literature, but I couldn't find any that had all 3 of those specific things in their injury profile and still made a full functional recovery. And I, thankfully enough, and praise God, I can say that I was cognitively untouched long term. And of course, with any coup injury, which is when the brain comes and hits the forehead, in any injury, this is the case, which is the most common, I believe, for traumatic brain injuries. Your short and long-term memory is pretty affected, but through the use of speech therapy, this, especially in my case, this can be something you completely and fully recover from. And so again, from all that damage to the brain, most sensitive organ in the body, and it's just a tiny little insignificant toe twitch. How much of a blessing is that? Oh my goodness. So again, of course, there has been recorded case documents where someone has multi-bleeds and is in extremely severe PTA, and they've made a full functional recovery. And same thing with damage to the midbrain and multi-bleeds. But again, maybe 2 of the 3, there is, like I said, some documented literature, but never all 3 that I had. So that being said, I'm planning a solo Tennessee trip, and because no neurologist here in the Chicagoland area could get me in prior to the next course I have that is working towards a profession, I'm not gonna share it here, because I'm not sure obviously who watches these videos, so I won't do that because that would be foolish. Excuse me. So yeah, but before this next course starts, I wanted to get this done and get this documented, just for my own mental sanity and potentially for the medical insight. Let's just say that. And again, just, by no means does it have any validation to me, because again, I've said this in videos before in the past, I'm sure of it. There's nothing I could have possibly done in order to help myself keep living, let alone um, let alone recover to the absolute maximum, with the exception of staying away from alcohol. Because alcohol, fun fact right here, alcohol is the worst possible thing you can do for brain or nerve damage, and I have both. So, and I absolutely by no means want to put that healing at any jeopardy. And very soon here, in July of 26 this year, July, towards the end of July, I will then be outside of the maximum amount of time the nerve takes to regenerate, and that is between 18 and 24 months. And so July of 24, I had nerve surgery, so 2 years after that is the maximum amount of time. So maybe I'll have a seltzer or two or something like that, but I still don't have any interest or intention to drink hard liquor. But yeah, that's just a little bit more of my injury severity. And again, I've been wanting to make this video for nearly months now, but I just have never carved out the time in order to do so. But of course, like I did say, I did make this video, but I just didn't like how it came out, so I decided, nope, this was no good. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, but again, this is more for myself and just getting this documented, and hopefully one day showing my wife this, and there's no possibility I can have children, so won't be able to show kids. But maybe my nieces or nephews maybe one day. But again, it's just for my own personal self and also for my wife.